everyone! Thanks for tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, it is time for my August reading wrap-up. First, I'm going to show off this cool t-shirt. This was a birthday present from my bestie, my basic sister, and my work wife, Gina. So she got me this t-shirt for my birthday. So, wanted to show that off. In any case, let's get to it. I read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13? Oh, I forgot to write down Sailor Moon. So 14. I read 14 books this month. I know. That's too shy than what I read last month. But it was my grandmother's birthday, my son's birthday, and then my birthday. So there were lots of weekends where I was otherwise engaged and couldn't actually read because I was, celebrating birthdays. Busy month for me, social-wise, which rarely happens. But new month, September. I'm pretty sure I don't have any birthdays to celebrate this month, so I think I can just read. Oh, and also it was the start of school, which meant lots of nights where I had to postpone reading to help my son do his homework. School's tough nowadays. I don't remember it being that bad when I was in first grade. Eek. In any case, busy month. First up on the roster was Shield of Sparrows. I like the book. I didn't love it. There is a reason. And I will attach a link to my YouTube video once it goes live, because I've already recorded the review for that one. But I like the world building, I like the pacing, I like the character development, and I like the character growth, and Odessa's main internal journey to find herself and find worth in herself. I liked all of those aspects of the novel. What I didn't like was the slow burn romance. It was too slow. That's my problem, okay? If you're gonna put romance in a book, okay, fine. I read books for the plot, not so much the romance. However, if you're going to market a book as a romantasy, I'm expecting the romance to take some sort of form in the novel early on. That's kind of just my internal expectation when I'm reading a book. I'm expecting it. I think the author did a really good job of establishing the friendship between, our main character and the Guardian. I think she did maybe too good of a job, because I was more invested in their friendship, right? And not so much the will they, won't they, because come on, it's a romantasy, they're going to. It's kind of cliche at this point. It's going to happen. So I expect to be emotionally invested in it, and I just wasn't. I think because I appreciated the friendship that the two characters had so much, and because that slow burn romance was just so slow burn. I mean, it just took way too long to develop, in my opinion. And also her internal monologue of her constantly checking him out. It was cliche. It was repetitive. Because it's just okay, I get it. He has rippling pectorals. I get it. Chiseled jaw. I get it. Abs. Her constant saying no, I will not find him attractive. It was funny at first, but then the more it just continued to go on, it's okay, it's not really funny anymore. It's just repetitive and cliche at this point. So I don't mind when authors do something like that in a romantasy. Again, it's to be expected. However, it doesn't have to be so repetitive. And I think that's why I didn't love this book. Again, I think that ending was just what? And it makes me want to read book 2. So I want to read this second book for the story, because I think the story was well done. And the romance, it's so back burner, unnecessary in my opinion. But the actual story itself, it was well done. And I appreciated the story, so I will still give this book 4 stars. After that, I read The Crimson Fortress. I'm going to be generous here. The Ivory Crew was a great book. I liked the 4 different perspectives. However, in this one, they just kind of bled together. I'm going to be honest. I had to look back through my notes for this book because I was I read this book this month? I don't remember reading this book this month. And then I'm like, oh, that's right. I did read this book this month. It was forgettable. It was forgettable. And I hate when a book is forgettable. Looking back at my notes, I was like, because I've been really good lately. Whenever I finish a book, I quickly jot down some notes about it to prepare me for, this wrap-up video. That way I'm not so stressed at the end of the month thinking, oh my god, I have to prepare my notes. So I've been really good about doing that. That's the only reason I remember things that happened in this book, because otherwise I don't remember this book at all. Book 1 I can remember clearly with the 4 siblings. I think, and I read that book years ago. Book 2, however, I don't know, the characters just kind of blended together. Each of them having their own romance was just further made them bleed together. They all had the same voice. They all had the same tone. And I just think it didn't work, I blanked most of it. I remember bits and pieces of the book only because of my notes. That's the only reason. But otherwise, like I said, I was just I read this book? I don't remember reading this book. And I did. There was a lot of political subterfuge with the crown and then the magic. But then for most of the story, I'm honestly drawing a blank. I wrote down in my notes 3 stars, so I'm going to stick with the fact that I gave it, when I was done reading it, 3 stars. But book 1 was memorable. I still remember every aspect of the book, of the 4 siblings coming together and to find the magical artifact. I think book 1 was really, really good. And I think in book 1 they all had distinct voices. Book 2 was kind of a letdown, mainly because if I cannot remember a book, and that's very rare for me. That is rare for me. Gina, if you ever watch this, you can leave a comment and be like, that's very unlike you. It's unlike me to not remember that I read something. It's shocker to me, honestly. I'm mind blown by that. And I think that speaks volumes about the book. After that, I read Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. This book is literally a dissertation. I cannot wait. First of all, I cannot wait to record my full review about this book. This book is literally a dissertation on feminism and different types of feminism and how feminism can, in some aspects, be detrimental to other women and other feminists. And I'm just damn, this book makes you think. And it follows 2 separate girls and 2 different points in their life. One is an adjunct professor. She just had a baby. She's becoming a mom. And I'm like, damn, that's relatable as fuck. Again, mom, 2 kids. I mean, she was just so relatable. And then you have the other girl who is trying to find herself, joins a sorority because she wants, sisterhood and family. And their paths, only cross once or twice. They don't really have a major impact on each other. But damn, this book was amazing. Dissertation. I'm already recommending it to everyone and it hasn't even come out yet. Dissertation on Feminism, Olivia Blake. I love Olivia Blake's writing style, honestly. She does very much write like an academic, but I like that a lot with her storytelling. And again, both voices, super relatable. The different types of feminism and how it makes you think about feminism. I mean, I'm just like, damn. I didn't think about it that way. And it's such a thoughtful narrative. And I mean, the girls in the sorority are cannibals. They eat men. Not in a good way. Yeah, dissertation on feminism. And they eat the patriarchy. It's great. It's really great. I love this book so much. I highly recommend it. Olivia Blake, you are still amazing in my book. Oh God, I cannot. Stay tuned for the full review of that book because I got notes, and I cannot wait to ramble and express everything I loved about that book. All right, I followed that up by finishing the Kingdom of the Wicked series. I read Kingdom of the Curse and Kingdom of the Feared. I'm gonna start by saying this: if you go to your local bookstore, you will find this book in the young adult section because her previous series was young adult. The first book in this series is very much young adult. These two books are not young adult. These two books aren't even new adult. These two books are clearly adult fantasy, and I could not in good conscience, working at a bookstore, I could not in good conscience, after reading them, leave them in young adult, because you have to remember, and I think publishers need to also recognize this as well. Sorry, my 2 cent notice. The young adult section is for ages 13 and up, or for young readers who might be younger who want to read more advanced stuff. Now, that's not to say you cannot address tough topics. I have read books where racism and xenophobia and rape and assault are addressed. You know, I have read young adult books where clearly teenagers are having sex. Those topics I do not think should be taboo. I do not think they should be taboo. Because I think that those are discussions that parents and adults should be having with young people so that they can make conscious, mature choices as they grow older. I say that as a mom, you know, as a mom and as a reader, and now as a bookseller, you know. I want my child to be able to pick up books that have sex and then be comfortable enough to talk to me about that subject. Because I can honestly tell you, I was not comfortable at all talking about that stuff with my mother. And it led to a whole slew of very poor choices in my life. So I think I should be better, and I think the publishing industry as a whole should be better. This book should not be coded as young adult because it has a lot of explicit sexual scenes that are perfect for adult romantasy. And honestly, those scenes are the reason I don't really like reading romantasy, because I think it takes away from the story, and at times, to me, my personal opinion, to me it comes off as vulgar, and it's not very tantalizing for me. You know, like 1 or 2 scenes, I think, okay, fine, nice little turn on, I will admit that. But the repetition of it is vulgar, and for me it is a turn off. Again, my personal preference, but that's usually why I do not read romantasy. I picked up this series because I thought it was going to be a young adult fantasy. And then lo and behold, as I'm reading this book, and I'm like, oh my god, like that is not suitable for young readers. It's spicier than chapter 55. And honestly, I don't think chapter 55 was that. Everyone's like, it's nothing. Honestly, for me, that was like nothing. I was like, oh yeah, this is more like, you know, for 15, 16-year-olds, I would find that acceptable. Kingdom of the Curse and Feared? Absolutely not. I liked the plot of the story. I do think Manny Scalco does a really good job with her plot. It had lots of twists. It had lots of turns in each book. I was like, damn, I didn't see that coming. Damn, I didn't see that coming. I appreciated the storytelling. I liked the different poles of mythos. You know, you've got some Greek, you've got some Roman. You have a lot of different myths coming in to weave this story. And I think that was really interesting to me, honestly. I personally really liked it. It was really just those sexually explicit scenes. They were long, they were tedious, they were repetitive, and honestly, in my opinion, they were a little too vulgar. And I also wasn't expecting them, because again, I thought I was picking up a young adult fantasy, not an adult romantasy. So I think the publisher really needs to retroactively, I've already moved them in my system, and if you are a bookseller, please move them to adult romantasy. Because you have to remember, young adult section is for ages 13 and up. That does not mean that anyone who is in their 30s, I just turned 34, should ever be ashamed of reading young adult. I shout it to the rooftops. I love reading young adult, and I don't think anyone should feel ashamed or embarrassed about that. So, it does need to be moved from young adult because of those explicit scenes. So, again, good story, but not suitable for young readers. Not suitable for teens, really. You know, like, let kids and teenagers be kids and teenagers. I don't think we should be forcing them to grow up so fast. Okay, that's my 2 cents on that. Sorry. In any case, after that I read books 2 and 3 of the Godkiller series, Sunbringer, and Faithbreaker. Ooh! I love those books. I love them so much. They were so good. Oops, kicked my tripod. I love those books so much. Hannah Knarr is amazing. Hannah Knarr is an amazing storyteller. I mean, Kissen, Elo, even Aaron, Inara, and Skedi. Okay. The little god. I love him. Lesser Crayer. Whoo! That was a plot twist I didn't see coming. But I love book 3 for that plot twist. This book was so expert. These books were expertly written. I love the rising tension. I love the characterization. I even love the character growth. And even Aaron, like, he's kind of despicable in the first 2 books. But then by the 3rd book, you're like, okay. I do not forgive you. You should be punished for all your previous actions. But I understand where you were coming from. However, that doesn't forgive you. And so, when he met his ultimate end, I was just like, live by the sword, die by the sword. However, when one of my favorite characters died, I was just like, reading it, and I'm like, I'm sad now. I was sad. It made me sad. I don't want to spoil it, but someone just died. I was very saddened by it. And I was just like, my friend, she's like, did you cry? And I'm like, almost. I almost cried. I'm like, it made me feel things. It made me feel things. So I was very sad. I was very saddened by it. But that's what I mean. Like, a story should make you feel things. You know, you should become emotionally invested in these characters. You should really just think, oh yeah, these characters are amazing. Like, you want to love to hate some, and you want to adore some other ones. And I mean, it was just so well done and well executed, and I loved it. I really did love these 2 books. 5 stars for each of them. 5 stars for each of them. I'm so glad I finally got around to reading them. They were so worth it. I wish I could reread them. You know, these are books I wish I could reread for the first time. Just so that I can experience this euphoria again. Because author has done an amazing job with, like, the world building, the fantasy, the mythology, with all the different gods, and how the gods interact with the world, and what it means to birth a god, or half god. I mean, it's really just, ooh, such a good series. Highly recommend. After that, I read Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. So this is her adult mystery debut. I liked it. I think I like the reappearance of Rachel Price better, though. That's not to say that this book was bad. I didn't think that this book was bad. Sorry, allergies. As I was reading this book, it was hard for me to put down. I thought it was really, really engaging. There was, like, I was at a silent book club, and everyone was just like, Cynthia, how many pages did you read? And I'm like, oh, 135. And like, 135 pages in an hour? And I'm like, it was really good. When a book is really good, I read really fast. When a book is like mediocre, or I'm kind of like bored by it, then I read like slow. Like slow. But this book blew through it. I understand why it's marketed as her adult debut, because her characters are adults. But I feel like she has the same tone of writing as she does with her young adult books. And this is why, again, to go back to the previous point from earlier, this is why I say people should not be ashamed by reading young adult books, because young adult books nowadays, you know, they do have a lot of mature, thoughtful themes to them. The only reason they're categorized as young adult is to market the fact that they are accessible and safe for people who are entering their teens to read. Because back in the day, you only had kids and you had fiction. So then, I know a little history for you. Kids and then fiction, right? There was no young adult. And then publishers decided, you know what, reading is, you know, teens are not reading as much. How can we get teenagers to read more? Because, you know, teenagers didn't really see a genre for them. Enter in the birth of young adult. Now there was a genre there where they were just like, oh, well, we don't have to read like the stuffy fiction books. There's something for us. So the young adult genre is not just for young adults. It's just a point for people who are leaving the kids, books. It's a comfortable entry point for them to continue growing. And it's also a marker for parents to be like, hey, the content here is suitable for your children. So the tone in this book, and history segment, the tone in this book is very much similar to her young adult novels. So it's going to be very accessible for all her readers who have already read Good Girls Guide to Murder or the reappearance of Rachel Price. It has the same tone. The characters are older. Your main character, who's not quite dead yet, she is a law school dropout. She's kind of still trying to figure things out and find herself pretty much bludgeoned to death, except she survives with an aneurysm. Like, okay, looking at the size of this aneurysm, if we don't operate now, you're only going to have 7 days to live. Like, but there's only a 3% chance you'll survive this operation. She's like, you know what? Let me take the week to try to solve my own murder. I don't want to die on the table. And so she has to rectify. She's trying to solve her own murder. She's forming a reconnection with Billy, who you can totally tell is in love with her. Love Billy. And then she's coming to terms with the fact that she's going to die soon. She only has a week to live. And now she has to rectify I didn't really live my life for myself. Let me do this one thing for me, right? So it is a bittersweet story. I think the way the mystery unfolds was really interesting. Lots of red herrings. I think Holly Jackson's really good at that. She gives you lots of red herrings and lots of misdirection, so you're not actually looking at who the suspect is. Because again, that dude was not even on my radar. I was looking every which way except for that one dude. Damn. But that's what makes a really good mystery. The unsuspecting part. So, I do recommend it. It is a really good book. Again, I read 135 pages in an hour. What did that tell you? Couldn't put it down. After that, Fate's Bane. So this is an example of a book that I read slowly. And it's a novella. I should have read it in an hour. This is a book I grabbed, picked up, I asked the publisher for it, and I'm like, oh, I can read this book in an hour. It took me 3 days. It was not bad. Let me just say that. It was not bad. It just was not what I was expecting. It is classified as a fantasy, but there's very little fantasy in it. It is very much Romeo and Juliet, but with a sapphic edge, with warring clans. I wanted a little bit more fantasy. I did like the world building with the different clans and then the Witch Beyond the Fens. I thought that was a really interesting aspect. Yeah. But I wanted more fantasy from it. However, if you're looking for a quick read and something different, I would recommend it. The Warring Clan faction, if you're looking for some sort of sapphic version of Romeo and Juliet, here you go. I love sapphic stories. I love them, I really do. But I think, I don't know, I didn't love it. I do thank the publisher for sending me a copy, thank you. Because I did email them, request it, and they sent it to me. I expected to like it more than I did. It was okay. It was okay. It wasn't the worst thing, but for something that ideally should have taken me an hour, the fact that it took me 3 days was just, I think that tells a lot, It just, there's just something with the writing style, the storytelling. It just wasn't able to hook my attention. It just didn't grab me, pull me in. And that kind of sucked. But, solid 3 stars, solid 3 stars. After that, I finished Where the Library Hides. So, I like this book more than What the River Knows. I liked it much more. If you have seen my review for What the River Knows, I did a joint review with 2 of my friends. Miss Gina being one of them. I like that book. I didn't love that book. I like this book more than that book. And that's because my main issue with the first book is I really, 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 really hate when authors, and I say this as a Mexican woman, okay? So I understand the hypocrisy, but I really, 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 really hate when an author's idea of a strong, independent woman is them being stubborn and constantly making stupid decisions and ignoring everyone. I hate that. I hate that so much. It's my biggest pet peeve. And I say that as a Mexican woman. I come from a legacy of women who are stubborn and will not listen to what other people say. That's in my blood. And maybe that's why it's my biggest pet peeve, because I've had personal experience with it. And the author is Hispanic, so I'm sure they have also had personal experience with it. It's very annoying when that happens, and I don't like it. And that's why I didn't love book 1, What the River Knows. However, Inez, our main character, has learned from her many mistakes in the first book and is learning to listen to other people and give other people's opinions some value. She is learning. She is growing, and I appreciate that so very much. She's still a fierce, independent Latina woman, and I like that, but now she has common sense. So, thank the gods for that. The plot twist with wit. Now, with that, I think that could have been dragged out a little longer. It was revealed really early on, like really early on. I think that plot twist could have taken more time to flesh out and to develop. However, given the following plot twist, I was like, oh, okay. My attention has been distracted from that, but okay, like poor Inez, she can't catch a break. Although, also, I hate her mother. So, you know, it was good. It was better. It was better. I think I would give book 1, I think I gave it 4 stars. I'd go down to like a 3.5. This one I would give a 4.5. I would give this one a 4.25. 4.25. That's what I would give this book. More than a 4, not quite a 5, but a little bit more than a 4, in my opinion. I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I have 4 copies of this book with the 5th one on the way, and I have no regrets. You know why? Because this book is amazing. I've just been telling everyone, it's basically a sapphic version of Interview with a Vampire. Sabine is totally Lestat. Oh my god. Just think of Lestat as a woman who's much more self-involved and narcissistic. She's kind of great. You'll love to hate her. Louise, Lottie, and Claudia is Alice, like for sure. So just think of it as a sapphic version of Interview with a Vampire that I think is better. And I say that as someone who loves Anne Rice. Surprise, surprise. It's been a while since I've read those books, though. Like, I think I only read the first 2. I never got to read Queen of the Damned, and I own them, but I haven't read them yet. But yeah, and you know what? All the nods, all the nods to Boston. Whew, as a Boston girl here, Bostonian, loved every minute of it. Every single freaking minute. It was amazing, and I loved it so much. This book is a must-read. It's so easy to follow. I love the storytelling aspect of it, especially coming from Lottie, because Lottie likes to write stories. So when she tells her rendition or her experiences, it feels it's more emotive. You know, Alice is just kind of like this lost college kid who's just trying to find herself, and Sabine is just a narcissist. So all 3 voices are very distinct, and all 3 ways of storytelling are also very distinct. Oh my god. Schwab is amazing. Schwab is just an amazing storyteller. She's just amazing. I love her. Love her. Love her. And I love this book. And I have absolutely no regrets about owning 4 copies and with the 5th on the way. So, love it. After that, I read The Night and the Moth. So I read this one for the Barnes & Noble Fort Lauderdale Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club. It had a slow start. I will say that. It was very hard for me to get into, like, that first quarter. And maybe it's just because I had a lot going on. You know, when I started reading it, it was the weekend of my grandmother's birthday, so I didn't really have time to, like, focus on it. And then the following weekend, you know, I had just done an overnight at work, so I didn't wake up until like 2 o'clock just to go to work at 4 o'clock. So maybe it was just like I just didn't have the energy to read, and I was just like, tired. But it was hard for me to get into, like, that first quarter. But once I got past the first quarter, I suddenly couldn't put the book down. I loved, you know, the Diviners. I love their sisterly relationship with one of them. I love the gargoyles. Although I will admit the gargoyle bit threw me in the beginning. I was just like, wait, are the gargoyles alive? Like, I wasn't quite understanding. I thought the gargoyles were just statues, so it wasn't clear in the beginning. Like, oh no, the gargoyles are sprites. Oh, okay. This gargoyle is her friend, and he calls all of them Bartholomew. It's kind of cute. So I'm just like, oh, okay, I get it now, I get it. I was a little lost to begin with. It was a little confusing. But her dynamic with Rory, with Benjen, with Maud, I think, first of all, the fact that I can remember, I didn't even write their names in my notes. I can remember all those side characters very, very well. Her name is Sybil. I like that her name is Sybil. I like that she made a mental note to remember her name, to reclaim her identity once her terms of service were. I like that she becomes a knight. I think her characterization, her character growth is really, really well done. And I like the romance that appears between her and Rory. It was well done. And I think their dynamic is also really well done. That ending, though, that plot twist, though, did not see that coming. Was not even expecting it. Just like mind blown. So now I need book 2 in my hands. I need it now. And then, last but not least, it took me a month to read this book. A Rumor of Dragons, Dragonlance Chronicles Part 1. So this is the young reader's version of Dragonlance Chronicles, where they split, you know, the trilogy into 6 books. So every book was split into 2. This is the book my son asked me to read to him every night. So we were, but you know, it did take us the full month because I'm not home Monday nights because I'm working. So I don't read to him Monday nights, and then there were a couple nights where I was just like so tired that I just like couldn't read. So it just took us the whole month to read it. I knew it would, though. I knew it would, because I didn't want him to miss anything. So the moment he falls asleep, I stop reading, even if it's just 3 pages in. He's like, no, I want to read 10 pages tonight. I'm like, kid, you don't stay up for all 10 pages. But I don't want him to miss a thing, because Dragonlance to me is clearly one of the best things ever, and I love him so much. Just found out that they're re-releasing Dragonlance Legends, you know, the twins story arc, as a collector set coming out in February 20th of 2026. I'm really excited. I already ordered a copy for myself and for 2 of my friends. So can't wait to reread that next year. In any case, I love Dragonlance. They didn't change much. If you can get your hands on, and it's out of print, this book. It's out of print. But if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it. There are 3 pieces of artwork that are in the book. You've got a picture of Solace, you have a picture of Sturm and Caramon fighting back to back against the Draconians, and then the 3rd and final illustration in the book is of Onyx breaking through the floor and at Zaxarath before, you know, she like attacks her companions. So, like, the fact that it has 3 very distinct illustrations in it, I'm just like, ooh, these are so pretty. I love them. And, of course, you have the map. So, expertly done. I love them. So, those are all the books I read this month. Thanks for tuning in. Wish me luck for next month. Thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And, as always, happy reading.